This episode of the Fiction Writers Podcast is brought to you by the Novel Notebook. With each character and each setting, hundreds of details must be compiled and organized. Far too many for a writer, like you, to keep them cataloged in your brain. The Novel Notebook provides the answer. Visit www.fictionwriterspodcast.com/novel and quickly discover how to organize your materials and take your novel to the next level. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
We all use them. We do it every single day, probably dozens of times a day. But this is one time when you should definitely, absolutely never write the way you talk. My name is Lana McAra. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast. Tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. This goes back to a bit of grammar. It's definitely a pet peeve of mine because I see it when I'm editing all the time. Something that we do when we talk, we start sentences with it and there. There are 5 children in my family. It is hot outside. Well, those are expletives. Expletives are fakers. They take the place of the subject when they're not the subject of the sentence. In good grammar, the sentence structure is subject, verb, object. In that order, he kicked the ball. He is the subject, kicked is the verb, and ball is the object. But if you put in the word it instead of the subject, it messes the sentence all up. The subject ends up at the end and the verb is somewhere in between, and you don't really have that powerful construction. Because when the words are jumbled, it takes down the power of your sentence. The most powerful sentences are short and direct. Subject, verb, object. So what happens when you add it or there? There are 5 children in my family. Well, what's the subject? What are children? 5 children are in my family. That's the correct structure. But the word there gets in and mixes it all up. The same thing goes for it. And so what do? What I do use find and replace. I use find and replace. I put in the word it, and I go through the whole thing. And whenever it starts a sentence, it's the first word of the sentence, I find out what's going on here. And I take the words and I put them in the correct order. Subject, verb, object. And then I'll go to find and replace and I'll put in the word there. And there is more often a culprit, a villain, than it. And when I open a book and I look at the first sentence of the very first chapter, the first word in the book, if that word is there or it, I automatically know that this book was either not edited or it was edited by someone who did not know how to edit a professional writing for publication. And that is a strike against the book automatically. So watch out. Watch out. You might think it's boring to use those direct words, a simple sentence structure, but it's not. It's actually much more powerful than you might realize. Get the book, Sarah, Plain and Tall. Sarah, Plain and Tall. S-A-R-A-H, I believe. Plain and Tall. And I believe the author's name is McLaughlin, Patricia McLaughlin. This is an award-winning book. It's a kid's book. It's for probably fourth grade level, something like that. Very tiny, very thin book. It's not going to be a hard read. Look at what she did. Look at the simplicity of her writing, the simplicity of the sentences, the simplicity of the paragraphs. That book is a classic because the author really worked and narrowed everything down and condensed and distilled and punched us right in the face with the words, because every sentence tells a complete story. She has a magnificent work of art there. Study it. And I would recommend type some of it. Type the opening paragraphs. Type the ending. Because when you type good writing, you can start to understand what the author was doing in the writing process. If you only read it, you are simply appreciating what is happening from a reader's standpoint. So get the book, type the words, feel them coming off your fingers into the screen, and notice what this author did. And always, always, always weed out those pesky words, it and there. I hope that helps you today. My name is Lana McAra. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.